I'm Elizabeth Uselton, and today I want to talk to you about bots. I'm going to show a couple walls of code in this talk, but don't follow along. Don't try to, you're not going to be able to. And this is more an ideas talk. This is more to get you thinking about what kind of bots you'd like to make, get you aware of what tools you have to make fun bots, and just have some fun. I want this talk to be accessible for beginners, so please, if you have a question, feel free to shout it out if I use a term and I don't explain it. So who's taken this tutorial? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, I've taken that tutorial too. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about first up, is I feel like when you're learning to program, there's a million resources for, hey, I can make a dictionary, I can put a list in the dictionary, and then I can put dictionaries in that list, and you're like, I can probably build anything, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, do you want to troubleshoot your UWSKey configuration? And then it's and you're like, well, I didn't learn anything about that. Just the difficulty level seems to ramp up high, and I'm not sure that we have a lot of projects that are in that good intermediate space. And I think bots can really be that project. I think they can really be several of the 5 million intermediate OWL steps that are needed here. I made my first bot when I'd been programming for 3 months, a few years ago, and it was the first time that I had worked with an API. It was the first time I did Oauth with anything. It was the first time I used a virtual machine. It's the first time I hosted anything on AWS, and it was the first time I had background jobs. I don't know about you, but it really helps me to have a project and have a reason that I need to learn things rather than to just learn various things and have people be like, trust me, abstract idea that I need you to memorize right now will come in handy later. I think that bots are also a good, I don't want to sell them as just a beginner project, because I think they're a good project for more experienced people too, because there's really no cap on how complicated you can make them. So I want to clarify a little bit. What types of bots am I talking about? Am I talking about those things that spam you and tell you about how much money they're making working from home? No, I'm talking about small batch artisanal bots, free range. Yes, yes. I want them all over the whole internet, no cages. Exactly. Thank you for. So you can make bots for all kinds of platforms. You can make bots for any message board you're on. You can make chat bots for Slack or HipChat at work. You can make bots on IRC. You can make bots on any kind of social media. But for this, I'm going to focus on Twitter bots, because I feel like Twitter has this rich ecosystem of bots that all talk to each other. I made a bot one time, and she told me that she got hit by a car. And I said, that seems unlikely, but okay, what? And then a lawyer bot on Twitter jumped in and was like, I will help you sue the driver who hit you. And I was just like, whoa, this is, and I went to the lawyer bot's Twitter, and it was just all a lawyer bot offering to help sue people. And then I got hit by a car on my bike a couple weeks later. I'm fine, it's okay. And I posted about it on Twitter, like you do, and the same lawyer bot came back and tried to tell me it would help me sue. And I was like, oh, all right, forgot about you. So they're just out there. There's just such a rich ecosystem of them. So making bots kind of feels like this. It's you're just making this thing, and it takes on a life of its own, and it's maybe it's a monster, but it's yours. But it also, I feel more like this, really, with it. Just, I love this slide. I wish I had more to say on this slide, because I like it so much. So first of all, I want to show you some of my favorite examples of like other people's bots that they have made, just to give you an example of what people are doing with the art genre of bots. So first up, this is, I think, one of the most famous bots on Twitter. Have you guys heard of Stealth Mountain? Yeah. No? Okay, I'm sorry, I feigned surprise there. I shouldn't have done that. But so Stealth Mountain is a bot that just searches Twitter for any time you say sneak peek, and you spell peek, P-E-A-K, like a mountain, not like a look, and then corrects you. That's all the bot does. That's the entire function of the bot. Here you can see it getting Bill Gates, and it's great because if you look at this bot's mentions, it's just people like cussing out a bot for correcting their grammar, and it's just like it brings. I think it's a really great example of how you don't have to do something that's like really technically hard to have a great bot. Like this is just, this is one line. It's hard coded in what it's going to say, and it has a search function. Like you can make this. This is a viral Hulk bot. This is a bot that I follow. What it does is it takes BuzzFeed article titles and then upcases them and then replaces the word you and your with Hulk. And I think once again, like the woman who made this is just like a genius of like, this makes me laugh every time I see it, but it's like really, there's not a lot of moving pieces. But bots can get more complicated. Olivia Tater's probably also one of the most famous bots on Twitter. I call her the good Tay. We'll talk more about Tay later, don't you worry. So Olivia Tater's is supposed to be trying to mimic the speech patterns of a teenager with some kind of Markov chains involved in there. So she just kind of says some nonsense, but it's like almost human believable. Like it's not quite Turing test, but it's getting there. This is a couple of bots that a friend of mine made. Do you guys know what hinky pinkies are? No? Nobody remembers that from elementary school? Okay. So a hinky pinky is a joke that, or it's a riddle, really, that it has two words in it and they rhyme. So you say, I say like, what do you call an obese feline? And you say, yeah, see, you get it. So, huh? I'd have to think of synonyms for what a sneak peek is, though. Stealthy mountain. Yeah, oh, yes, yeah, oh, gosh. The name of the bot. The name of the... I hadn't... So these bots write these jokes. Like, I'd like you to think about that for a minute. This isn't a precompiled list of these jokes that the bot tells. The bot writes the jokes. What do you call a programmer supporter? And then at the bottom you can see another bot answers, no way, it's not a hacker backer. Like, so... Wait, so two bots are talking? Two bots are talking. Yes, two bots are talking to each other about jokes that they wrote. We're living in the future. There's some things about it that are horrible, but other things that are great. Bots talking to each other is one of them. This is probably my favorite bot in the whole world. I'm like so jealous that I didn't write this bot. I don't know. I might have to explain so the premise of this one is. Do you guys know what the website Arrowhead is? Yeah, a few people do. Most people are. Of course you don't. So Arrowhead is a website with information on various drugs, and one of the things it has is it has long stories. Yeah, that site. It has long stories about people's experience while on them. It's an educational site, and so this guy has taken that text and mashed it up with recruiter spam that he gets. And so, like, a good bot, if you're trying to make a bot that's funny, a good bot is funny 30% of the time. Like 30% of the time, solid success. This bot funny every time. So like, I'll give you a moment to reread these with in mind where they're coming from. Okay. Lastly, just to show that we can do like good like and non-nonsense with them, this is a bot. Congressional Edits is a bot that takes it takes any Wikipedia edit that is made from any of the IP addresses of Congress and posts and tells you about it. So like, what is Congress invested in you thinking about things, or how do they want to present information? That's really cool. It's kind of a public service, I think. But this is just a small sample of the weird bot ecosphere. There's like other bots out there. There's bots that tweet species in danger of extinction. There's bots that correct people when they misgender Caitlyn Jenner. There's bots that just troll Gamergaters, and that's like the entire thing. So let's find out how to make our own. So there's like 3 pieces to bots, and the first piece is like trying to interact with Twitter. So for that, we're going to need Oauth, which Oauth is a standard way for an application to determine that a second application is authorized to access the first without you giving your login information. It's the way that your program will tell Twitter that it has the right to post as an account that you make. You can give different levels of access, which is like, if you remember a week ago when everybody was like, oh my God, Pokemon Go can read my email. That was because they'd chosen like an OAuth level that was like, I need all of your Gmail, even though they didn't. Because I don't know why they did that. I only send emails about Pokemon Go, so it worked out for me. But so let's see. So the way that OAuth gives access is through what are called keys. You're going to get 4 keys from Twitter, which will look like long strings of computer garbage. They're super secret. Don't give them to anyone. Like, put them in a YAML file away from the rest of your application, and then put it in your git ignore so that you don't push it to GitHub. Because if you push it to GitHub, everybody else has the keys to post as you on Twitter, and people on the internet. So this is what a YAML file looks like. It's just key value pairs if you haven't worked with those before. Those aren't my real keys. They're keyboard mashing because it's secret, like I said before. So a pro tip that will save you hours of being angry here is that the default Twitter keys that they give you are read-only. And you have to like select that you want read-write keys, and then you have to generate new keys. Otherwise, your bot will be mute. You won't know why. It's like remarkably dumb to troubleshoot. And so Twitter has a REST API and a streaming API. I'm going to say that if you're new to this, just go with the REST API. You probably don't need the streaming API, and like being well versed in REST APIs is going to serve you well later. So a bot is just like a Twitter user. So if you build the Twitter app on your account, you're going to have, like, you're going to be the bot. So you probably want to make a different account. Like, I had an idea that before this talk, I'd take like a list of all my followers and I'd make a bot on my account that like then found out like what new followers I got from doing a talk at a conference. And then when you unfollow me like a couple days later, because you're gonna do that, it would like it would remember, and it would like tweet at whoever like dropped off the list and be like, sorry, I wasn't funny enough. But I thought maybe this was like antagonistic, and so I didn't set that up. But I thought about it. But in most other cases, you want like a different account for your bot, is my point. So the next choice we have to make is whether we're going to like use the API or use a library. So a library wraps the API calls that are your interaction with the Twitter API. It saves you from having to deal with a lot of the nitty-gritty. I made you a flowchart to help you figure out what you should be doing. So can you find a library with good documentation that's been updated in the last year? For Twitter, yes, you definitely can. How much have you worked with APIs? And so if the answer is never or bunches, you probably want to use the wrapper library. But if you've worked with them a little bit, but you've only worked with them in like a library, it's probably worthwhile to like actually go see the API calls. I think there's like some good lessons to be learned there. I think it's good to see what happens under the hood there if you haven't. So here's some sample code from Tweepy, which is a library I chose because it didn't only have documentation, but it had examples, which I could pretty much just take and copy. Like I think we were talking about on the lavalier here. Nobody really reads the full docs, but on Twitter, I know mostly what I'm trying to do, and I know what methods are going to be available to me. I know what the API should be shaped like because I'm familiar with it. So having examples was really helpful. So this is like all the boilerplate it takes to have a program that posts to Twitter for us. But it's posting a hard-coded script, which is not very fun. But it's pretty cool. We get to move on to like the fun part of this really quick. So let's talk about what we're going to build. You may have noticed that the thing that everybody had, all of those bots had in common is, I just called those bots everybody, is that they had sweet data sets. So let's talk about where we're going to get data to build bots. First up, Civic data. There's so much of it. And so the pros are that it's all yours. The government has this data, and it really wants you to have it. They are just so happy for you to use their data. And the downside is that sometimes it's data where you're like, what? Why would I want this? And sometimes it's like really poorly formatted because the government doesn't generally have like a lot of developers as much as like a tech company. It's not their primary business. Here is data.seattle.gov, which is a list of data sets about the city of Seattle, where I'm in from. This is an example I brought not just because it's a counterexample to things being poorly formatted. This is actually like great. But because my sister works for the company that makes this, I like to brag about her. So as you can see, it's still kind of a mixed bag. Like up here in the green, we have building permits by owner, or building permits current in the past 5 years or currently in progress. If I wanted to make a bot that was like, so we've got a lot of development going on in Seattle. We're a big tech town. And if I wanted to make like a NIMBY bot that would like complain about the changing character of the neighborhood, like whenever a construction project happens, okay, mixed feelings about that. But I can make that bot. Yeah, down here with the red arrow, we have electrical permits older than 6 years. If you can make a bot with this, please make me aware of it. I would love to see it, but I don't know what anyone really wants with that, let alone us. So let's move on. Another way to get data is data scraping. If you're unfamiliar with the term, it sounds like physically scraping data off a page, which kind of it is. It's when you have a page with repetitive elements, you make a script that identifies the HTML divs, and you can get data. You get the data and store it in a format that's better for you. So it works best on things that have like a repetitive structure, data that's in tables, data that is I don't know if BuzzFeed has an API, but if not, I suspect that's how the viral Hulk bot works, is you could scrape headlines off of a website pretty easily because they'd be a repetitive structure. So the pros of scraping is that you can get any data whatsoever, and you can get new data automatically if you set up your script to run. Yeah, but the cons are that it's a little more work. You have to write the script, and that people can change their website, which means that it's probably not a great idea to actually get new data automatically, because basically what you're doing is you're setting up an API that you have made that you have not told anyone about and that no one has promised you will continue to work. Like if they change the layout of their page, then all of a sudden you're not going to be able to scrape anything off it, and you'll have to go back and change your scraper every time. So it's really best used for for things that you scrape once and forget about, I think. I use Mechanize for data scraping. I know a lot of people love Beautiful Soup. I'm not hating on Beautiful Soup. I haven't really used it. I hear people say they use Mechanize and Beautiful Soup. But the reason that I like Mechanize is that you can complete forms with it, so you can actually not just scrape the page you're on, but like travel through the internet. Here, let me show you a page of some stuff that I scraped with Mechanize. So this is an example of less well formatted than you would hope government data. NASA has this 1994 looking web page where first they tell you about all of the different satellites they have and where they are in coordinates. Well, first they tell you about what time periods they have them available for, and then they give you a form where you fill out the dates that you would like. There's no default for give me all the data and you press a button. You have to fill out the form every single time for everything you'd want. And so I wrote a thing that scrapes this part of the page off and then fills out this form for me and then submits it and then takes what's on the next page. And it saved me a whole lot of time. And NASA is government data, so it doesn't mind. Use your good judgment. Some people mind being scraped a whole lot. So corpora is another way to get data. A corpora, or a corpus, is just like a big body of data. It's a text. Project Gutenberg is probably the most famous example of this. You can get like a whole text of a novel. People make corpora. I'm having so much trouble with that as a plural. People make corpora of different things. Lists of adjectives, lists of dinosaurs, but there's not really a whole bunch of central locations for them. Here are some that you might like. Amazon Datasets has some stuff. Darius Kazemi makes some amazing datasets. Project Gutenberg has most books that you could think of that you want. And of course, there's the Natural Language Toolkit, which actually gets its own section. Natural Language Toolkit is the reason that you want to be making bots in Python. It's the most, it's powerful for like teaching your bot English, for like having a bot that people are like, wait, how did it get that smart? It's definitely like, it's that slide of the Frankenstein becoming alive. There's an O'Reilly book on the subject that I really like, that I want to say really helped me get through this and know what are all the things available, because the Natural Language Toolkit is big. And if you go to their documentation page, it may not be immediately apparent like what it's good for or what you can do with it. Like I think they open with this, which is like tokenizing and tagging text. So there's like one linguistic student in the room who's like really excited right now about this. Who are you? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah! Called it. So yeah, it's basically taking different parts of speech and putting, a clock is represented by JJ, which is intuitive. On is represented by in, which is intuitive. And I don't think this is their strongest selling point as a person who wants to make a bot. I actually borrowed that O'Reilly book from my sister, who is a linguistic student, and she was like, this is for sentence diagramming, and I was like, no, this is for bots. And so what I think is the big selling points of the NLTK is that you can import a whole bunch of corpora really quickly. There's one of those walls of text I was talking about, but it's got all of these books ready for you. Not only books, though. If you look in there, there is a chat corpus, which is just 90s chat logs. I think it would be really fun to make a couple bots that talk to each other that just like do 90s internet chat back and forth on Twitter, just for like the anachronistic thing of like having somebody ask somebody else ASL on Twitter. It's, I don't know why, but that's deeply satisfying. There's a text of personals, which I want to go into because I'm that kind of creep. And So I was looking through the personals and using like the concordance method, which you can see at the top, which shows you the words around something. First, I did a frequency chart, and I saw that the word married turned up in these personals like a lot of the time, and I was kind of scandalized. But so then I decided to see what was around it, and you see at the top like never married, looking to get married, and I was like a little less scandalized and was like, this is kind of boring. But then when you get back in there, it's like, oh, discreet married, fun married, ugh. So I decided to run a, so text 8 is the text of the personal ads. You can run a method of what's like a similar word, what's a word that's correlated with married, and we get these, you get naughty, attractive, classy, clearly, and then I put in a Jane Austen text and asked it what was similar to married, and it says suffered. So it really, like, the way words are used and how they're similar is like really dependent on the text you put in, and what you're going to be able to make is like based on that. So I would. We'd probably get like much better results from this if we were using this corpus called the Brown corpus, which is included in the NLTK. It's was developed by Brown University in probably the 60s or 70s, and has like all kinds of different things. It has like news articles, it has books, it has, yeah, I think it still has some of these kind of less reputable sources like this, but not as many. And so you get something a little more balanced if you're looking for that. But if you're looking for a niche bot, really putting in a different data set is how to go on that. So also the NLTK has chatbots. I just learned today, I don't know if there's a public API for them, but you can like if you just want to cheat and you're just like, man, I want to have a fully working bot with like as little work as possible. You guys know about Eliza? Yeah? Okay, everybody know. I'm going to tell about Eliza. I did not hear enough yeses. Eliza is this bot out of MIT in the 60s that like asks you psychotherapy questions where they, like you talk, you're like, I'm so mad at my mother, and the bot's like, tell me about your mother. And they actually caught, like, this is an apocryphal story, I don't know if it's true, but they caught research assistants like going into the lab after hours to like talk to Eliza because she was just like so comforting. And so yeah, she's a great bot that probably deserves to be ported to Twitter if that hasn't already happened. But the natural language toolkit has sentiment analysis, which is a way to, like, if you're building a bot that's like a Buckeyes fan, and so you want to like take all tweets about the Buckeyes, but you don't want it to repeat like things that are mean towards the Buckeyes. That would not be good. You can run those tweets through sentiment analysis and make sure that it's saying things that are positive. It has pronunciation keys, which are, you can look up any word and have it translated into how it's pronounced, and synonyms, which is synonyms. And between synonyms and pronunciation keys, I think you can probably intuit how those hinky pinky bots were made earlier. Like you start out by finding two words that rhyme, so that the pronunciation key, except for the front of them, looks the same. And then you just find synonyms for them, and then you ask the question for those synonyms, and then whether the other bot knows about the first bot and they share code, or whether it reverse engineers it is, I don't know, but you'd have to ask the woman who made it. But either way seems plausible. So one last thing for natural language processing I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about is Markov chains, which are kind of, it's a little less impressive than some of the stuff in the NLTK, but you can get it up and running and it's a lot of bang for your buck. What a Markov chain is it's, you take a big thing of text and you read in all of the words in it, and you find out for each word what are the most common words that follow it. And so like if you have the word to, we say all roads lead to Rome, and so that comes up sometimes. But if you say I'm going to the store, that comes up a lot more often. He gave that to me, that comes up more often than Rome. So when you're building things backwards from the Markov chain, it's like you take that knowledge and you like look up the next word every single time and take one of the top 3 most common things, and you can get something that's random but that makes grammatical sense. Some people look at like the last 2 or 3 words if they want to make sure that there's no like really jarring changes, and some people like jarring changes. We're going to go back and look at Arrowwood Recruiter because I love it so much. So this is a really great example of Markov chains. Like if you look carefully, you can see where it's happening. Jay told me my kidneys stopped working for a well-known mobile advertising company located in San Francisco, California. You can see where the switch happens with the Markov chains of like working has connotations in both sentences. So the last data set I'd like to talk about is Twitter. Just as you're posting to Twitter, you can use the same library to read things either by searching for specific things or seeing what's in your timeline. So you're already integrating with Twitter anyway. There's so much data on it. It's already in Twitter-sized things. But people on the internet are terrible. Oh, gosh. Have you guys been to the internet? It's so I promised we'd talk about Tay, the like Microsoft chatbot that was on Twitter Okay, so I have a friend at Microsoft, and I was like trying to ask him how this happened. If you didn't hear about Tay, she was designed to be like a teenage girl chatbot that would like seem human plausible. And within 24 hours, she was just tweeting like really, really horrible, problematic things, like hateful things that I don't want to go into now, but things that you don't want your bot to. No, I'd go beyond that. I'd say you have a responsibility to make your bot not say those things. So what I've heard was it wasn't actually that she learned this from the users. I heard that this was like this was in the data that she got in originally, and it just wasn't filtered, maybe. Apparently, like the data that she was trained on before she got sent out to us was from Reddit, and there are some lovely places in Reddit. So I really, really recommend if you're going to use any kind of thing where people on the internet are your data source, what you want is you want a list of forbidden words. You want to think up every horrible word you can think of and put it in a list and just filter it on any incoming data and say, if it includes that word, I don't want to take that in as my data. If somebody says that to my bot, maybe have a canned response of, I don't want to talk about that subject. Oh, okay. And yeah, there will be words that you'll miss. Like you'll be surprised what some of those words are. Like I had this bot, and one of her hobbies was yoga, and so I wanted her to talk about yoga like all the time. And it turns out that most tweets that are about yoga are actually about how people's butts look in yoga pants. And so this was like, well, this wasn't a hateful one. Like nothing happened where I was like, oh gosh, I'm embarrassed to have built this. It was like, sure talks about butts and yoga pants a lot. I should probably tweak this bot. And so yoga pants is now on her list of blocked words, even though it's not like, it's like they're next to some horrible things that I'm not going to say here. So Tay would probably work fine if she had a block list added to her. Maybe she does. I don't know. Maybe she's taken, yeah. What's she doing? What's Tay up to these days? So our last piece is we want our bot to do things automatically. Like we've got a sweet data set up to some kind of system where it does something creative and fun. We've got it integrated with Twitter, but we still have to press a button every time we want our bot to say something, and that's not very bot-like or fun. Like kind of the fun of it is that it comes up and surprises you and when you forgot about it. So I'm going to say I use AWS. I get myself a I got myself an EC2 micro instance when I was doing this at first, and it was free for a year. That was cool about it. I've heard people say they have really good experiences with hosting things on DigitalOcean. I think you can also host things on Heroku and have their workers do background jobs for you. I'm not sure if that's free or not. It is?
Up to a certain number of hours processed per month.
Up to a certain number of hours. So unless your bot gets really, yeah, unless it gets really popular or starts doing some really complex, it's easy to not think about performance when you're doing a bot because, you know, it doesn't really matter if it's slow to like do all of this natural language toolkit things, like if it takes 5 minutes to go. But if you're running something computationally complex, you may be surprised by how much is going on a server and it can sneak up on you. So if you're unfamiliar, like the idea of hosting something on a virtual machine is that there's like some idea of a computer carved off of a really big computer that's somewhere out in Oregon probably, and it's running all the time, and so when you close your computer, your bot doesn't stop working, which is key. So one more piece. So if you go with AWS, your virtual machine will be an Ubuntu machine, which will have cron jobs. It'll have like that already set up on it because it's a pretty standard way to run a delayed job on a Unix system. So there's already like a cron tab file on all kinds of Unix systems. You type crontab -e, and you put in some specs about what you want it to do. It takes it takes in 5 numbers: the minute, the hour, the day, the month, and the weekday, and then you just have Python and the script you want to run. So I've put up some samples here that are a happy hour bot that tweets at 4:30 on Friday, a Christmas bot that tweets all the time on Christmas. I don't know why you would want that thing. And a 5 past the hour bot that, once again, is, I don't know why you would want that thing. It's just demonstrative. But you can specify when you want your bot running, and then it bots without you. It goes on to a little life. You forget about it until somebody says, man, your bot said something inappropriate. You need to update its block list. So I want to talk about bot etiquette for a minute. I shouldn't have to say this, but don't make a bot that harasses people. Don't make a spam bot. If your takeaway from this talk is you go and make a spam bot, and then you're like, man, Elizabeth taught me how to make a spam bot, I'm going to be like really embarrassed. And but that's like a little fuzzy, right? Because like Stealth Mountain's technically kind of a spam bot. But yeah, make more amusement than you do annoyance, which Stealth Mountain does. So. But a good rule, if you have a bot, is to let people opt in, not opt out a lot of the time. So if they follow your bot, then your bot talks to them. But if they don't follow your bot, it leaves them alone. People are fans of bots that leave them alone if they don't want to talk to them. Yes. So the bot ally hashtag is a great way to promote your bot. The bot community on Twitter is like one of the weirdest, most welcoming, like most artsy subcultures in programming, I think. And it's a nice place to just put your weird child out into the world. Please holler at me if you're making a bot, if you want to hack on bots together, if you want to talk about bots. And thank you very much.